Hello there, Jets fans. Welcome to episode number 63 of the JetStream podcast. I am Travis Rubinick. Today is February 16th. I'm here with Joe Clark and Neil Noonan. You guys know what kind of annoys me?
What?
Around this time of year, well, actually two things. I'm going to bring up right up front. Around this time of year, first of all, is the fact that the Jets are always played so many more games than everybody else. And we were talking about this on the way over here, Joe, about how annoying it is. Like, it's great that this year they've actually, like, put themselves in a position where they need other teams to win. But it drives me absolutely bonkers just sitting there and being like, yeah, great, we're in a playoff spot. But we've got, like, 3 games in hand on everybody. So these games need to I don't know how they still haven't sorted themselves out, but it drives me crazy.
It seems like it's like that every year. The Jets always have played more.
I don't know what that's about. Yeah. Like, it's a weird setup. But, I mean, the nice thing is they play... I think I saw somebody tweet out not too long ago that they played the least number of back-to-backs out of all the teams in this race now for the rest of the year. So that's good, at least. I think they have 9 left or something like that. Or last time when I saw that tweet, someone said 9, I think. I can't remember who it was. Sorry if you tweeted that. If you have those numbers, tweet them at us.
I thought I remembered saying at the beginning of the season we were talking about who had the most back-to-backs, and the Jets were like up there with... all the teams that had to play the most. So maybe they have more in the back end of the season. I don't know. But
yeah, I don't know. But I remember someone saying that they've got like the least left out of all these teams. So I don't know. That's a good thing. The second thing I hate, or it's a natural thing around trade deadline time, but all the stupid reports that just go crazy. Like today is a perfect example. And just the framework of every report that comes out. Player X has garnered interest from X team. They think it's a great player, but they don't want to offer too much for them.
That just happened like 10 minutes ago with Phil Kessel.
Exactly. That's where it popped into my head from.
Florida Panthers.
I was like, well, duh.
Yeah.
I feel like there's lots of teams that are interested in great players that just don't want to give up too much for that great player.
If that situation didn't exist, then great players would be just trading all over the place.
Exactly. Like, I bet you. Breaking, guys. Breaking.
Yeah, BN. Hashtag BN.
The Winnipeg Jets are interested in Sidney Crosby, but they're not going to give up too much to get him. You've heard it here first, boys. You heard it here first.
Well, then.
There's interest in Sidney Crosby from every other team in the league.
Yeah.
Including the Winnipeg Jets, but they don't want to give up too much for him.
Oh, man.
The real question now, and we'll run our show. We'll run our 5 o'clock news hour show. How much is Sidney Crosby actually worth?
Oh,
because we heard there's some teams interested in him.
That's a good question.
How much is he actually worth? There you go. Show produced.
Is he coachable?
Over. Is he? Yeah, I don't know. That's a big question.
I don't know.
Is Phil Kessel coachable?
Well, of course.
I mean,
he's
the
coach killer.
Yeah,
he's the coach killer.
He is a coach killer.
Yeah.
I mean, it's on the hockey news.
Oh
clearly,
my goodness!
He just
Yes, I can't wait to get that issue. On Boxing Day, there was a $20 subscription for a year hockey news, and I was like, I don't even care that I'm not interested in what these guys have to write. That's so cheap. It's just worth the entertainment. So I got the subscription. I've been getting all the hockey news ones, and there's a couple decent articles in there every now and then.
It's another opinion, right?
It is, yeah, exactly. It's just, different views, but I cannot wait to... I'm going to frame that. Like, I really just want to cut that. I want that issue. I'm not going to read it. I just want to cut that picture out and frame it.
Just put it like
Coach Killer
above your bed so you wake up every morning to Phil Kessel be like, at least I'm not that.
Yeah, Coach Killer with the board in front for a mugshot. I love it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to sell copies, so
hell yeah.
good for you. Whoever came up with that is probably like, yeah, payday.
No, I want that. Like, I cannot wait to get that issue.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I guess it's different for me this year because it's like the 3rd or 4th time it's a rebuild, but every time it's a team you recognize, you're like, oh, all these teams are so interested in my players and blah, blah, blah. Oh, yes, so my team's going to do something. It's like, well, technically this is always really going on.
It's just it never gets released.
Yeah, and now it is getting released.
Because it's close to the trade deadline, so people feel like they have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, trade talks, from my understanding of how things work, from what I've heard in the past and different reports I've heard and different things from other people and whatnot, these trades very rarely just get started around trade deadline time. They don't happen that often. Yeah. And there's the occasional case where maybe at draft day 2, someone walks up and just knocks a team off, like, holy smokes, we have to make this trade. It happens, and within a span of half an hour, it's done.
You know what? A lot of the time, it's not like a huge trade either. If it's something that just happened out of nowhere, it's just a couple, role players. It's nothing huge, maybe a draft pick, and then that's it.
Yeah. Trades, like, apparently that Phaneuf trade or whatever that happened with the Flames way back when, apparently it took a year to put together. Yeah. Like, that's a long time.
There's a lot of players involved in that trade.
Yeah, which in a way, in my opinion, makes the trade that Kevin Cheveldayoff made this past week even more impressive, because I know there was always talks that Evander Kane was potentially going to be moved, and apparently he had asked for a trade. So I'm sure maybe there had been rumors spit up before, and there were people who'd said that the Sabres and Jets had made these talks before. Apparently, the Sabres had expressed interest in Kane before, and Bogosian before, and things like that had gone on. But I don't know how quickly this all came together, because this is a pretty massive deal. This is probably the biggest deal you're going to see all year. You can just imagine that TSN and Sportsnet and all these places are like, frick, this couldn't happen on the day.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. You boned us.
Yeah, they would have loved that.
But yeah, it's obviously, it's impressive that he was able to put it all together. So for those of you who, again, live under a rock, a trade was made this past week, and it is going to be our leading story, so we'll get to that in a sec. We're also going to talk today about what the Jets need to do moving forward if they're actually going to make the playoffs, because things have gotten very interesting in both the Central Division alone and the Western Conference as a whole. We're going to talk about the one thing that no one seems to be mentioning lately, and that's Michael Frolik and how he has an expiring contract, and something needs to happen there. And then we're going to answer a question from our friend Andrew Turley that we didn't get to last week, and yeah, promised I'd get to that, so we will answer that question. But first, obviously, the number one story of the week, the number one thing has happened, I guess you could say, around this lovely city of ours in a long, long time in regards to the Jets. A big trade. First of all, I think we need to give Kevin Cheveldayoff a round of applause.
Yeah, no, of course, yes.
He has popped his cherry.
Obligatory.
The NHL player for NHL player trade has been made officially.
Fuck yeah, bud.
Thank you, Kevin Cheveldayoff, for finally showing us that you can do something. He went about a big blockbuster trade, moving Evander Kane, Zach Bogosian, and goalie prospect Jason Kasdorf, who I honestly completely forgot existed.
Yep.
In exchange, he sent them to Buffalo in exchange for Tyler Myers, Drew Stafford, Joel Armia, Brandon Lemieux, and a first-round pick in 2015. It's going to be whatever the lowest one ends up being, so it's going to be
3. They
yes,
have
Buffalo,
their
had 3.
Yeah, they had their own, which is going to be most likely 1 or 2, most likely 1. They have St. Louis's, which will be middle of the pack somewhere, and what was the other one?
Islanders,
and
so whoever goes further in the playoffs, it's the one.
Exactly, whoever, yeah. So the lowest one.
Interesting thing I want to
if it's the Islanders, it's going to be pretty low in the first round, but still, it's first round.
Interesting thing I want to throw out there about Buffalo's pick. Everyone's, and you just said it right there, most likely going to be the first overall pick. Even if they finish dead last, they only have a 20% chance of getting that pick.
That's why I said most likely first overall, but I mean,
it's
the lottery's changed. It's made it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as a Leaf fan, I'm praying.
Oh, absolutely. No. I mean, it gives so many people so much more hope.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not going to happen because it's the Leafs, and nothing like that would ever happen.
No, that's ridiculous.
But hey, they're either getting Connor McDavid or Jack Eichel. It's the way it is. So either way, they're getting a generational talent. So whatever. I just don't think it's so mindset it's going to be Connor McDavid. Anyways, Jets talk. Let's just ask the question right up front, Joe. What do you think?
About the trade.
I got a lot of notes here that we'll get to eventually, and we'll break things down. But just blend off one quick sentence. Actually, let's put it this way. If someone's holding a gun to your head,
okay, who
won the trade? I hate this question, but who won the trade?
Yeah, I don't really like who won what trades. But I'll go with Winnipeg. It's a tough one, but I mean, and as much as I love Evander Kane, and we don't need to go into that. We talked for literally a year and a half since we started this podcast.
We love Evander. We've talked about Evander consistently.
But the first thing that popped into my mind when I saw this trade, I was at lunch at work, and I picked up my phone to go eat my lunch, and it was like, Jets trade Bogosian and Kane for Myers and Stafford and conditional first round pick plus a crap ton of prospects, blah, blah, blah. First thing that popped in my head, it was like, if somebody asked me the 2 players, and I think I said this to you before, Travis, if somebody asked me the 2 players on the Jets, or any players on the Jets that don't quite fit with what they're trying to build, and not necessarily by a player standards, but by a person standards, I would say Bogosian and Kane, because Kane's got that out of this world personality, and he draws all the attention. Bogosian's got that reputation of a party animal.
Yeah.
To put it lightly. For various reasons that we won't go into because it's all allegedly, but it's still there. And so if you were to ask me that before this trade even took place, I would say probably Bogosian and Kane, the 2 big ones. Because everybody else is either a really young guy, Trouba, Scheifele, etc., Lowry.
Ehlers, Lowry, all them.
All those are super, super young, so, we're not going to say whether they're who they are fully yet or not. Yeah. And then there's the family guys. You've got the lads, the Wheelers, the Bufflins, married kids. Bufflin doesn't have kids, I don't think, but he's married.
They're at a different stage of their life.
Yeah, completely different stage of their life. And those were the only 2 guys that were really in that in-between stage. Plus, they had that off-ice reputation, good or bad. Mm-hmm. And so when I saw that, I was like, you know what? Not surprised.
Yeah.
Not surprised at all.
Oh no, I completely agree. And actually, going off of that, I went back and I was supposed to be studying for midterm, but I ended up watching a while of because Pity tweeted something out, and I watched a video, and then it kind of linked me to a bunch of the Q&As from the last few years. So I fell down that rabbit hole for a while just because I was watching some stuff, and Kane's in all of them. So I was kind of just looking to see if there was any kind of indication that something wasn't really right there with Kane and everybody else. And there was ones like the what's going on with the Thorburn and Kane bromance, stuff like that, where it's all fun to watch. But then there was a question, what was the biggest generational differences in the locker room? And obviously they were talking about Trouba and Scheifele because they were the kids. Yeah. And I was watching it and I was like, they aren't really talking much about the other two. And then someone brought up the note that they asked like, what's the biggest generational difference? They're like, there isn't really one with those two. There isn't one with those two. There's one with those two. And they kept bringing up, oh, those two are pretty mature. And then somebody kind of hinted towards the line. I'll try to find the video again and link it. Someone kind of said something along the lines of, well, there's those two are kind of mature. And then don't forget about Zach and Evander. Like they're in their own little thing. And I was like,
because they are.
There it is. They are. Yeah. They are too. They are very, they're in the middle.
Yeah.
And Garrett, I think, tweeted out afterwards that the scary thing right now that you can kind of look at is with on your wingers, you now have Andrew Ladd and that age category, and then you got a huge gap, and then you got like Ehlers, who's the next young winger, and it's a weird kind of spacing right now. And I don't know if it's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. I'm not going to try to play that role, but there's a big age gap there now that was filled by Evander Kane, and yeah, you could say Zach there as well. It's just not there anymore. So you've got, like you said, the older family guys who are going to be leading your locker room, and that's how the kind of mindset they want to put in. And the young
18, 19, 20.
Exactly. Yeah. The young guys that you can mold into whatever you want. So maybe that's what they wanted to do.
And
maybe those two were
if
never
that's
really
what they want, then they've done a pretty good job of it because that's what they got.
Yeah, because those at this point in time, you're molding whatever player comes in underneath the Ladd, Little, Wheeler, those kind of mindsets.
It's not a bad mold to follow.
No, not at all.
Nope.
The very underrated, good hockey players with families that, sure, they probably go astray every once in a while. I'm not going to say anything is. I'm sure they do their crazy shit at some point.
Yeah.
But it's a good model to go after, and they are family guys, and they do have kids, and it's you have less of that random mixture. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's a good point. I actually wasn't even thinking of that, but yeah, it's a good point. Neil, any thoughts on the trade?
I was listening to Tim and Sid the day it happened, and Sid said something so funny, which I thought it made a lot of sense to me and how impressive it was that Kane on that Tuesday with all this shit that happened, basically just pulled a pin in of a grenade in the locker room. Chevy grabbed that, chucked it over the Buffalo before it blew up.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm just impressed that this whole Kane situation didn't get bigger than it did. And he's in Buffalo now.
Yeah, I think that's something you have to give a bit of credit to Chevy too, is that this could have gotten a lot worse.
Yeah.
I think it got pretty bad. I think it became a distraction pretty quickly. Yeah. But I think it could have, if he let this drag on for a long, long time, and that was just a question that kept coming up, and you didn't address it. And yeah, you had a hole in your lineup because Kane was out, and he just could have left it. And I think I'm hesitant to give him too much praise because he let it, like I said last week, he let it get to this point. He let it become to the point where now you've caused a serious problem. And I went off, and I admit I went off on Chevy earlier last week saying he's got to front a lot of the blame here, but he did address it. He could have just left it, and I think a lot of us were kind of thinking, yeah, he should do something, but he hasn't done something about anything before, so why are we so keen on the fact he's actually going to do something? Yeah. But he did. So that's good for him. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm with you both there. I think, like Joe, I don't really like saying who won the trade. I think there's a lot of factors that are going to go into who actually ended up winning it. It's going to be a long time.
And I mean, you can say who won the trade now, but who's going to be winning it 3 or 4 years from now, right? Like,
no, exactly.
Like bigger implications.
And again, to bring this back to Leafs, because I always do, look at the whole Sagan Kessel thing. Yeah. That who's won that trade has gone back and forth about a million times, from it 100% being the Leafs because they have a player now who can just a perennial 30-goal scorer, to flipping over to Boston because, oh, look, they got the second overall pick.
And he won the cup in his first year.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Won the Stanley Cup. It's at Boston.
Yeah. Okay,
Sagan's gone now. Now it's definitely Toronto. Mm-hmm. They're moving on from that. So now Kessel might be traded. So is it Boston again now? Because they're at least going to have those pieces depending on what you get. There's so many different things that play into who actually wins a trade that I honestly think this is just a deal that turned out well for both teams.
I'd say so.
Chevy needed to make a move. He had something he had to get rid of. And as much as we've all said we love Evander Kane, I think at the point he had to go. He gets shipped out. They pull in some other guys who could be great. We'll get into actually breaking it down in a couple seconds here, but I think it's just a win-win for both teams. The Buffalo gets to further their tank efforts to pick up a player that isn't literally not going to play for them.
They've already got the jerseys hitting the shelves. The Kane
exactly.
jerseys are already on the shelves, but he's not going to play all year.
Exactly. Like he's got a personality now that they can try to build around on top of whatever pick they end up getting. They can have a guy that potentially, even if Evander does do something crazy, it's going to pull away some of that drama because they instantly, as of the draft day, Evander Kane is not the biggest story in that city anymore.
Yep.
He isn't even now. The biggest story in that city is that first overall pick. He can do whatever the hell he wants. No one's going to care.
It's true.
So
everybody's just waiting.
Yeah. Like Buffalo fans, praise to you because you've been showing up all year and supporting this team and you know what's going on. Like it's almost refreshing to kind of see a team that's just like, we're just going to suck. And we're sorry, but we're just going to suck because we know the payoff's there regardless of who we take. There is a payoff at the end of the road here, and we're doing our best. And I think if you're a Buffalo fan, you should be excited about this because you did just pick up. They did get the best player in the trade right now.
Oh yes,
they got the best player, and I hate evaluating trades like that. I understand why people do because a lot of time you don't want to be giving up the best player in the trade, but there are circumstances, and they at least now have a solid winger to maybe play beside Connor McDavid should that happen. And they need people to play hockey eventually there. So you got two guys now who are locked up. You don't have to deal with them. Moving forward, and you can figure this out and try to rebuild.
Bogosian, his first game was number 1 in ice time for the Sabres. So I mean, clearly they wanted a guy who could slide right into Tyler Myers' role, and so there you go, they got him.
Yeah, I think they just needed two guys. Let's actually get into that right now. Bogosian and Myers. I think that part of the trade, breaking it down, I think that was just a swap for swap, a defenseman for a defenseman. They both needed a change of scenery. They're pretty much the same player. Bogosian scores more at 5-on-5, so I don't get where this whole Myers has such good upside offensively. It's like, well, he hasn't shown any of it, and Bogosian has, so maybe don't pick that. Myers is a big body. He's a tall body. Put this in perspective, I don't know if I've said this to you or Neil yet. Tyler Myers is about 4 inches taller than I am.
Okay.
He weighs 10 more pounds than I do.
That guy's a monster. Wow, he's skinny, eh?
Yeah, he is a twig.
Wow.
He is giant.
So he's, 220?
He's 220 pounds, 6'8".
Wow.
So he's a big guy.
That's
He's about 3.5, 4 inches taller than me.
Yeah, that's
so
crazy.
I'm tall.
Yes.
And he is much taller and basically
skinny.
Probably has about the same muscle mass as I do.
How tall is he?
6'8". Yeah.
I'm sorry, how old is he? Is that?
He's the same age as Bogosian, 25, 24?
Yeah, 24, 25.
I'm surprised he's so thin.
Yeah, that's the scary thing. He's very light on his feet. That's one thing I've noticed in these last few games is his skating ability is great. Like he looks very smooth, and him and Enstrom together is hilarious because short and smooth, tall and smooth.
Yeah.
Best joke I saw that entire thing is now Enstrom finally has somebody he can trade sticks with.
Actually, I'd like to see their sticks side by side. That would be great.
Yeah, it's probably not that different. Although Myers apparently, and Bayak just love to say this, he has that exemption for his stick height because he's so tall. Like, yay, whatever.
Congrats.
But I don't really, he doesn't lay the body out very much.
Stupid.
He's not as aggressive, obviously, because he only weighs 220 pounds. His center of gravity is not going to let him hit people like that because he would literally flip over people.
Yeah.
Being tall is great, but I've talked to a lot of people about this before. It's not necessarily making it easier for you to hit people because you're taller, because they're hitting you below your center of gravity all the time. So it doesn't take much to set you off flipping over.
Yeah.
So Tyler, they're the same guy. And depending on what statistic you use, and Garrett wrote an article about this, I believe, when they first made the trade, depending on what statistic you use, it says one guy's a little bit better, the other guy's a little bit better. 5-on-5 production, Bogosian's a little bit better. Certain Corsi stats, depending on how you manipulate them, make Myers look a little bit better. Myers has played crappy minutes, but he's also played in Buffalo.
Yeah.
He's also, though, been the second worst Corsi producer on Buffalo. So, but he's played tough minutes.
Buffalo,
so it's hard to kind of evaluate him as a whole because where he is.
Yeah.
It's hard to factor out the Buffalo.
And that's where he's been forever.
Exactly. It's where he's developed. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not even going to try to make a prediction. I'm hopeful. I wasn't really excited when I heard it was Tyler Myers that could be coming back, but I think what's a big part of that is the cap savings the Jets get. Well, not the cap savings, but the actual figurative dollars, because Myers signed that huge contract a few years ago. It was ridiculously front-loaded. So you've got some actual dollar savings, which is huge for the Jets. So I think that was a big side of it. I think the fact that you were pretty much getting the same for the same was a big side of it, and they just wanted to swap things around. I guess now you do have Tyler Myers in that awkward middle stage of growth himself, but I have no idea about his personality. All people say is how great of a guy he is.
You know what? His numbers are going to be better. Guaranteed. He's playing on a better possession team. Just a better team overall. He's playing with Enstrom. If he continues to play with Enstrom, you know his numbers are going to hop up from where they were. So it's going to be better. It's just a matter of how much better.
What do you think about him playing with Enstrom? I actually had that down as a question. Do you think that's a good spot for him to go? Because he's going to be playing a lot of heavy minutes. And if it's such a question mark with the guy, do you want him playing there?
Here's a interesting comparison. Like in the trade that I'm in, when you start at the very beginning, you go with the most experienced guy, the best guy in the shop, and you work with him and learn from him.
Okay, you threw me off there when you said the trade you're in. I'm like, what? You're getting traded?
The working trade that I'm in, and you go with him and you learn from the best guy basically. And I think that's kind of what's going on here with Myers and Enstrom. Not that Myers does not know how to play defense in the NHL. Obviously, he's been doing it for years. But
he's also been doing it in Buffalo.
And I think that maybe this pairing will stick around, and maybe who knows. But we've seen Enstrom hardly ever plays with the same guy. Like he gets shipped basically whoever the Jets want or is playing with Enstrom because they know that Enstrom's responsible and he's going to make the player he's playing with better. And he's going to make good plays, and he's going to make the other guy make good plays because he's good. You know what I mean? And so I think that either this is just you're just starting off, let's put you with our best guy, so it'll make you look good, make you feel confident, whatever, you can learn how things are done properly here, because this is our exemplary guy.
Yeah.
Or who knows, maybe they just really like the two together because it's, big, small, whatever.
It's a weird dynamic.
Yeah, it could be either of those situations. But I don't think it's a bad thing in the short term. I think it's only positive. I mean, playing with Enstrom is just a good thing for anybody, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Enstrom as a whole has had a bit of a down year. I don't know how much that was Bogosian. Yeah. I'm not saying Enstrom's played bad by any stretch of the imagination, and I think he's made a couple more mistakes that we've seen this year than the past. Like I think both games against Detroit, he's thrown a puck right into the middle of the ice.
Yeah. But that's their zone exit. That's how the Jets
do that a lot.
That is their set thing. They go up the middle of the ice all the time. So, I mean, it's not going to work 100% of the time. And I agree, it's got to be some blame on the defenseman, but you see it every single game. That's what they do. Yeah. You've got to be
there. That's true. I think what you really... I want to use it right here, but the repercussive effect, almost, of where you put him is almost a bigger deal than the fact that he's with Enstrom. Because if you look at the Jets' pairings right now... I think the big thing about having this trade made and getting Drew Stafford, which we'll get to in a second, was that Buff was able to move back to the blue line. So instantly Buff is happy, which is good. But when you think about what your pairings could be here, if you have Enstrom and Myers playing together, that's great. The wonderful thing that you've always been able to do, or what's really worked well in the past, has been Buff and Enstrom. That's awesome. So let's say they did that, and that's your number one top pairing. Awesome, that's what we're going with. Well, then what else do you really have? Are you going to put Myers with Sherratt? I'm iffy on that because personally, I don't know how good Sherratt is without Dustin Byfuglien, because they've struggled when Buff has been a forward. Yeah. So and it's
only been a few games.
Oh, exactly. It's a tiny sample size. I don't know how much of Ben Sherratt is Ben Sherratt and how much of Ben Sherratt is I'm signing beside Dustin Byfuglien all the time. It's been fantastic. So I don't know if you really want to mess with that. Or are you going to put Myers with Mark Stewart? At which point you're putting a guy who struggled a lot in Buffalo to probably your worst left-hand defenseman right now. Yeah. So it's risky. I think it was almost you have to put him with Enstrom as much as it is this is a good choice to make, because then you can leave Buff with Sherratt, which has been a great pairing. Leave Trouba and Stewart together. Now you've bumped them all the way down to the third pairing, which, again, I don't think that's the best spot for Jacob Trouba, but he's made it work. And I guess if you're deploying them properly, which they have made them play tough minutes as well, you can make things happen. So it's an interesting dynamic, I guess, but it was almost it's a smart move because it is with Enstrom, like you brought up. Like it's just you're putting them with a guy that you think has shown to have success with almost anything you throw him with. Yeah. But I think it was also where else are you going to put him?
Yeah. So. Which could cause problems if
it doesn't work, then you really have to start playing with
make
things,
a change, then it's going to be interesting to see where it goes. Mm-hmm. I can see easily him being thrown with Stewart.
Yeah. The dollar savings, I think, is a really big key part in that Bogosian-Myers swap as well. We'll get to why that's important a few times throughout our discussion here, but yeah, it's definitely another, I think, a big piece that played into that trade itself. So if you kind of look at the Bogosian and Myers as a wash, those two are just straight up trading the same player for the same player, just getting a change of scenery. That means you got Evander Kane traded for Drew Stafford, decent all-around guy. We'll get to break him down in a second. Armia, Lemieux, and a first-round pick this year.
Mm-hmm.
So realistically, when you look at it, you got Evander Kane for a guy who was a first-round pick, but is now probably about a third-line guy, whatever. First-round pick. Guy picked one pick out of the first round and a first-round pick. So you pretty much got Evander Kane for 3 first-rounders and a depth player.
Yeah.
I don't know what more you could have expected.
Yeah, that's not horrible.
So I am personally, I think you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider the situation Chevy was in. I'm okay with that.
Mm-hmm. And if you look at some of the other trades that have been made and the values that have gone around, that's pretty dang good value for Evander Kane at this time.
It is. Especially where you had him slotted.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, if you look at Drew Stafford as a whole, he's a good finisher. I think he hasn't necessarily been the best possession guy in the past, but he scores. So I don't think he's a guy that's going to fill Evander Kane's role completely with the Jets. I don't think he can be put in the same situations, but I think he's a guy that when you put him alongside most players is going to be okay. Like right now, morning line rushes today, and again, this is Monday. They play Edmonton tonight. They had him on the top line with Ladd and Little. I'm not sure if you really want to put him there. Maybe it's a good option. I don't know. He playing on that side is different than what we've seen with Evander Kane, so you got a bit more options. Then you have Perreault, Scheifele, and Wheeler together, Thorburn, Lowry, and Frolik together, Gagliardi, Slater, and Peluso together. So I think it puts a different dynamic in because he's the opposite side of what Kane was.
Yeah.
So it gives you a bit more flexibility there. I don't have anything bad to say about Drew Stafford. I think the fact that the Sabres held on to half his salary really makes it
awesome,
a great deal because I think he's making, $4 million?
Yeah, it was 4 something, so that's a little bit much if you're going to be using him. Hey, if you're going to be using him on the first line, I guess that's great value, but if you're going to be using him on the third, which is, second or third, which is where he should be, then you don't want to be paying him a guy.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to play with $4 million if he's playing up there. So, but, I mean, he's making, $800,000 more than Chris Thorburn, and he's a huge upgrade. So I'll take that. Mm-hmm. I think the important thing with him being added is you can't be done. You need to add another. If you were just getting Stafford for a pick, that's fine. But you still, in my opinion, Chevy still needs to add something else. And that's where I think adding that first round pick that they got is really important and key. Because now the Jets are holding 2 first round picks, which in my opinion makes that second round pick very expendable.
Yep.
Which is the going rate for a guy like Daniel Winnick. Which, in my opinion, makes a guy like, Mike Santorelli's gone now, but whatever. It makes a guy like Sean Bergenheim. Maybe that's his value. And there's a lot of options that Jets could go for right now. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But I think adding that first rounder is a really interesting factor because it does make that second round pick expendable. Or, again, it could make that first round pick expendable if you really get a good offer for a guy.
Get a good enough offer. You got 2 first round picks to work with.
Yeah, I think it. And teams that are tanking right now, they want to. This is a great draft. Mm-hmm. This year as a whole, the first couple rounds are going to be good players for the most part for what you expect, especially compared to the recent past. So I think teams that are doing really poorly are going to want to start sucking up first and second round picks, and having more of them right now gives you a great position. Mm-hmm. I would hope Chevy sees that. And I don't like these current talks of hold on to them and make the draft picks, whatever, because I think you need to send a message to your room right now that you are in this to win. They've done their job. It's your job as a GM to add and get them help. So you don't have Chris Thorburn, who hasn't been awful. He hasn't been great, but he hasn't been awful on the third line. I'd rather not see him there at all. Yeah. So add something so he doesn't have to be there. Maybe play Gagliardi a little bit more. That would be nice. And you can really keep moving on and adjusting to it. Armia and Lemieux. I've heard of Armia
before.
I've heard of Armia before in good ways. Lemieux, not so much. I hadn't heard too much about him, so I did go read some stuff by Jeff Fleur over at Jets Nation. He usually writes for the Leafs, but he covers a lot of junior hockey, and he wrote a good article about them. So go check that out. Just go to jetsnation.ca and go under the voices. And I don't know if Jeff Fleur's on there, but just go scroll through it and find the article written by him. He was saying that Armia pretty much projects to be a second liner, maybe, but he could become a very good third liner, which again has been a problem for the Jets. He stands out in the AHL. He's played professionally over in Finland for a while. There's a chance he can be called up. I'll get to in a couple minutes.
He's in St. John's right now.
Yeah, he's in St. John's right now. There's a chance he can get called up if you want to. I don't like that choice, but it is kind of a last option. You can call him up. I'll explain that a bit in a little while. And then Lemieux, son of Claude Lemieux, is a very similar player, the pest kind of pain in the ass role. Likely going to be a third or fourth line guy in the future. Not a goon, so that's a wonderful thing. We'll see how he goes. He's projecting around what you would expect for a guy who's a year out of his draft. So I don't think he's going to be anything special. I don't think either guy, if one of them can end up being something great, that's awesome. I don't think either guy is going to necessarily be, I don't want to say not necessarily be Evander Kane, because I feel like that's setting the bar pretty high.
Yeah.
But the role they had Evander in, I think they might be able to fill in the future. So we'll see how it plays out. I mean, if Armia comes out and ends up becoming a great second-line player, that's fantastic. Yep. That's exactly what you needed. But I think the real key, in my opinion, a lot of people are saying he's the key to the trade. The real key to me is adding a first-round pick.
Whatever they do with it, whether it becomes an actual pick for the Jets or if they trade it away.
Yeah, even if they keep that pick, whatever you do with a second-rounder, that is the real key, in my opinion, is it gives the Jets more flexibility on top of having more cash to actually get a player here and be able to pay a guy, another player, and make things work. I think that's the real key piece to this whole thing, is that they were able to add their own flexibility in this entire deal. So I don't think losing Jason Kasdorf really meant anything as a whole for them. If that was the difference between, okay, we need another prospect if you want to add a pick, and they were able to get that for Jason Kasdorf, a guy who's going to be playing behind Hutch, Hellebuyck, Comrie already. Like, you have a lot of goalie prospects. It's never bad to have a bunch of them, but you had enough, I think, that you were able to make him expendable, and I don't have a problem with it. There's a lot of ways you can go through. There's a lot of talk, too, about flipping Myers. I don't hate the idea, because I was all for trading Bogosian and just moving Postma up and bumping guys up the lineup, having Buff and Edstrom together, Trouba maybe playing with Sherratt or something like that, and Postma and Stewart, and adding that, because I don't have a problem with Paul Postma. I think Paul Postma's a better defenseman than Mark Stewart. I think there's a lot of guys in the Jets lineup who are better than Mark Stewart.
Yeah.
But you do have to be careful with it again. You have to make sure you're getting quality back. So you can add that quality and get that trade happening, fine. I don't think it's going to happen, because...
What are the defenseman options right now when it comes to like pending UFAs, pending RFAs, stuff like that?
Well, Franzen was the big piece, but he got moved
one.
with Mike Santorelli, which I honestly think the Leafs probably could have got a bit more for that, but if that's the best offer you're getting, I guess you have to take it.
Yeah.
Freaking Olli Jokinen just hating being a Leaf.
Oh, yeah.
I really am not sure what else is out there. Moving defensemen's always a risky thing, right? So I just think the Jets have way too many of them, and they need to get forwards. So move something. I wouldn't be surprised if Postma gets moved. I don't want him to go. Of all of them, I think I would rather see Stewart go. I just don't know enough about Tyler Myers, I guess, to say get rid of him.
Which is why I kind of want to see him stick around, because...
I mean, you've got him locked up. If he ends up being terrible or ends up being nothing more than what you expect, and you think Postman can replace him, move him at the deadline. Yeah. Or not the deadline, the draft.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just don't see them flipping him right now, personally. So going forward, next topic we'll kind of talk about. Kind of alluded to this earlier, that things have gotten really interesting in the Central Division. They've gotten really interesting in the West.
Yeah.
It's looking more and more likely now that a good team in the Central is going to miss the playoffs.
Yep.
Minnesota's turned it on since Dubnyk got back.
There's hardly a bad team in the Central.
Oh, yeah. And Dallas, I think Colorado might be done. I think they're 10 or so points out right now, and that's really, really hard to come out. You've got good teams ahead of you. Dallas might be in a bit more trouble now. Sagan's out for a month and a half. So even if you do eliminate them, the Wild are still there. The Kings are still there. The Flames are around. The Canucks are around. There's a lot of teams vying for 2, maybe 1 spot right now. So I think in the end of things, a good team's going to miss the playoffs. Whether it's the Jets, I think the Wild are a better team than people give them credit for. The Kings are the Kings.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and they're right on the right on the edge of the playoff line right now. I think the Flames might be a team that drops out. But they keep pulling things out of their butt. So
they are where they are right now. They're in the last wild card spot at the moment. So
whether they fall off, I think they might be a very Colorado-ish team next year. They might fall off, but right now,
although they're not getting unreal goaltending, like
yeah, but their possession numbers are still ugly. So there'll be an interesting team to watch. I think the race has just become a lot more entertaining. You've got teams adding stuff. The Nashville's added Franzen and Santorelli, 2 players that are just great. Like
Nashville's been.
For a long time, I was sitting there hoping, okay, maybe the Jets can avoid Anaheim and play Nashville, it's looking more and more like avoid Nashville and play somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only reason Nashville won last week was because of Pekka Rinne and Jets' bad penalties. But
still, Pekka
they just Pekka Rinne. They've just added Cody Franz in. Cody Franz is gonna be in their second pairing. Like they've got a good blue line. Mike Santorelli is a very underrated player. So, they've just added a lot. So I think that puts a lot of pressure onto things. But ultimately, in my opinion, the team that ends up making the playoffs is going to be the team that makes the least dumb decisions. So if the Wild want to ride Dubnyk on all these back-to-backs they're going to play, I think that's putting them at risk of a lot of stuff. But
so far, it's worked out.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to cool down eventually. He's got to. He's not going to play at a .940 save percentage rate for the rest of the year. That'd be absolutely
2 shutouts every 4
mind-boggling.
games.
Like it's insane.
Yeah, he's doing crazy. Although if there's a team to do it behind, I mean, the Wild are possession kings.
Yeah,
Like
they
that's
have
what they
played
do.
well. They dropped off a little bit from their past, but they're still a great team.
They don't.
I tweeted out, and again, I don't want to say this is a shot at Chevy, but he hasn't exactly done things a lot in the past. But it was, again, pretty refreshing to watch a team like the Wild go through the struggles they did and not just fire their head coach and blow everything up. They said, okay, what's our problem? Oh, look, our goaltending has been awful. Let's address that with a guy who can be taken away for cheap because everyone thinks nothing of him, and give him an opportunity. And look what it's paid off for them. It's nice to see a team just straight up address a problem, and look what it's done.
Yeah.
They're right back in the race. They might not make the playoffs because they might have waited too long, but they fixed some stuff. So, and when I say that I think it's a team that makes the least dumb choices that will make the playoffs, I'm talking Chris Thorburn on your power play unit at any point in time and goaltending decisions.
Yeah.
And I think when I first wrote that, it was very much an anger thing because Pavelec kept starting games and saw it against Nashville, give up a weak goal at the end of the game when the Jets have been pressing for the entire period and pretty much made it insurmountable. You see a lot of Pavelec when you shouldn't. But again, today, he goes and says something smart. Paul Maurice told Ken Wiebe, which was reported just before we started recording today, that with the upcoming schedule, quote, one of the goalies may get to play a little bit more. Which one? I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
So
sure he doesn't.
I think we all know because Hutch is getting the start again tonight. That's 2 in a row. Yeah. Hutch has technically started, I think, 4 of the last 6, I want to say. Yeah. So it looks like they might actually be getting smart about this and giving Hutch the reins. You have to make that decision at some point, whether it's on the playoff run or when you start in the playoffs. You have to make that distinction. It has to happen.
Oh, yeah.
But it's decisions like that I think will be the difference between making the playoffs right now and not, because you're in a race now and you have to be smart about your moves. Your GM has to help you out.
And you're in front. It's like Mario Kart.
Yeah.
In front is like the scariest thing. Yeah. Because somebody gets that blue shell and you're like, ah!
It's coming for you.
And you're guaranteed you see it on the screen. You're playing with your friends. You see they get the blue shell and you're like, ah.
You see it coming from all 4 squares.
All four
no! Someone just passed me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be in first anymore.
Exactly.
Oh, that's the best metaphor of all time.
And all you get is friggin' bananas and you keep chucking them back.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't do anything.
Green shells, whatever. Yeah.
Like, oh, what am I shooting here? I have nothing. Oh,
exactly.
That's such a good metaphor. Oh, I love that, Joe. That's perfect. We're playing Mario Kart now.
That is the NHL playoff race.
Because everybody knows now. Like Edmonton tonight is a perfect example. They know that if they win, they're boning you over.
Oh,
You think they don't want to start doing that to teams and just start picking it off? Like that's the pride side of things. Like when you play sports, if you're still losing, you want to screw over the teams that are ahead of you. Like it's not like you're just gonna be like, whatever.
No, that's the whole point.
Exactly. So
you know you're not gonna make it. Try and stop as many people. It's like crabs in the bucket. Yeah. Just keep pulling them down.
Exactly. It's in Mario Kart, another perfect example. When you're in dead last, in the new Mario Karts, you get that huge fucking bullet
thing,
and you need to fly all the way and make yourself back in the race. And along the way, you can screw over some other people. It's perfect. Oh, such a good metaphor. Why couldn't I be as smart as Joe? So off of all that, though, what do the Jets need to do? Other than obviously playing Hutch, what do you think the Jets need to do to make sure that those goddamn blue shells do not bone them?
The blue shells. They got it. Well, obviously, conference games. In conference games, no points, no overtime, no nothing. Win in regulation. Obviously, that's huge, and that's huge all year. Mm-hmm. But it seems like at the beginning of the year, and this is just true for sports in general, it seems like at the beginning of the year when those kind of things don't happen, everybody's like, oh, whatever, they got lots of year to make up for it. Well, when it comes down to the last 20 games of the season, you're really wishing that those ones you didn't really think about before were there, and you didn't go into overtime against Nashville or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So those are huge. If you're going to lose a game, just freaking lose against the East, okay? Just do it. Like, I know it's easy to say, but like, come on.
If you're gonna not show up one night, just don't show up against Toronto.
Yeah, just don't show up against the Rangers or something. Like,
yeah.
You got to win those games. It's Western Conference, and especially
They almost did against Detroit, but at least they came back.
Yeah, especially the divisional ones. You got to win those ones. And I agree with Thorburn not being on the power play. Just don't. I understand that sometimes guys struggle, and that's just the nature of special teams. You know, sometimes you're just not going to produce. I mean, just maybe give a different guy a chance. if you're gonna take a guy,
just double shift somebody.
Well, if you're gonna take a guy, if you think that a guy's having some trouble and you want to give him a rest and not make him worry about producing on the power play for whatever, a game or two, maybe slide somebody else in. Just not Chris Thorburn, anybody. Or I mean, it's fine if you tried it once, but it hasn't worked, so just try something else.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest thing that they need to do, and I've said it like 6 times already in this podcast, they need to add depth.
Yeah.
They need to. You have Winnick still available, and I know people are getting tired of me always pumping Winnick's tires, but he's been so good with the Leafs.
He has been very good.
But I do agree there are other great options out there. Matt Calvert out of Columbus. He is apparently very ready to be moved. Mm-hmm. He'd be another great addition. He's an RFA, so I think that's exactly what Chevy needs to look for, is a guy that you can get and not necessarily just walk out of this place as soon as you have the opportunity. You can sign him again at the end of the year if he works out. I think he's a great addition. I really wish Santorelli was still available, but he is now a division rival, so god damn it. Sean Bergenheim out of Florida is another guy that has said he wants out. There was another report today that there's a bunch of teams in on that. You now have a first-round pick available. Mm-hmm. If you really want to adjust the team, I know it's not easy to give away first-round picks. You have 2.
Yep. Or like you said,
have an extra one right now.
A second-round pick.
If you want to look at your asset management side of things, imagine adding to that haul for Vander Kane, Sean Bergenheim, Matt Calvert. Good players. That's how you properly manage your assets.
Yeah.
Take that first round pick and turn it into a great player, and then you just got a Vander Kane for 2 first round pick prospects, a depth player, and a solid second or third line guy. That is a good trade.
Yeah.
That's what you've got to start doing with this
big
deal.
Win on a trade.
That's why I think that first round pick added to that trade was the big piece, because now you can turn this into something really, really good. Victor Stahlberg was put on waivers by Nashville as soon as they picked up Santorelli. You want to make a good claim on waivers? Victor Stahlberg would have been one. I'm waiting for Score Mobile to tell me they did it, but I think it's a little late now. So talk to Nashville. They clearly want to get rid of him. I know it's not necessarily a trade they're going to want to make. Think about it. Talk to them. Victor Stahlberg is a good player. Just don't get Chris Neal, please. He's not a guy you want to add. There's a lot of options out there right now. Mm-hmm. The last of which I think is A, Chris Neal, B, calling up Joel Armia. And I understand people are excited about the option of adding him, and I know Chevy's made hints that it could happen. But there's already been talks, like I said, that you can pull us. Winnick is apparently going for a second rounder. That's what they're looking for him.
Nice.
And I think that's kind of setting the tone right now. A first or second round pick can get a lot of these guys. And I think if it's not just calling Armia up and rushing him that's doing something to that. I think it's kind of setting a tone that we'd rather just pull from these guys that we've got and just rush them than add somebody. If you add another player, if you add a Matt Calvert, for example, you've got another RFA there. You've made more internal competition. When things at this season end, I think Halstrek's off the books, Slater's off the books, Peluso's probably off the books. You can seriously consider, if you add another guy, just dump in Thorburn. I know you're not going to buy him out. I wish you could.
Yeah.
But maybe you can throw him into some trade to a team that wants to tank. Do so. You can get rid of Thorburn. It's not a great contract to have, but it is a contract you can dispose of. It's not David Clarkson by any stretch of the imagination right now. I think if you add another depth player, you're slowing things down with your prospects again. You give Ehlers maybe a chance. If you can make the team, great. If not, go play in the AHL, develop yourself even more. Go play against men. Patan, I'd be shocked if he actually makes Jets lineup next year. You give him another year to develop against, again, men. You start building more internal competition if you add, again, I keep saying his name, Matt Calvert. You add internal competition because he's an RFA, he's a solid player. You can add a lot of challenge in your lineup, and that's what builds winners, is making it very, very difficult for guys, A, to make the team, B, stay in the lineup.
Yeah.
And it's not because you've buried yourself with terrible contracts. A guy like adding guys like Perreault, Frolik, who they need to sign, who we'll get to in a minute. if you can add these pieces and make it difficult for guys to get in the lineup, they're going to push each other hard. It's that competitive edge, right?
Yep.
Make it mean something when you get pumped out of the lineup. Don't make it he's going to go because he's terrible.
Yeah, that's the perennial kind of healthy scratches that just go in and out and in and out. What's the point, right? Like having
make internal competition.
Caluso and whatever those guys. No knocks against them personally, but I mean, what's the point in having them if there's just going to be healthy scratch one night and play the next night and not really have an impact?
Like right now on the Jets blue line, it's basically a rotation of who really cares. It's, oh crap, we have Stewart in the lineup. Oh crap, we have Party in the lineup. Like, and not a knock against those guys, but at least on the right-hand side right now, it's Postman can't get in there because they have good guys there.
Yeah.
Left-hand side lineup, it's guys can't get in because, well, this guy makes more money than you, so he's going to be the guy we sit with. It's not necessarily skill, it's
there's a lot
get
of
in the way of
factors.
shots with my face and make more money than you. So it's what it is. I think if you can build more of a competition and you can let them build together, let Lowry and Ehlers learn how to play together and then bump them up. Do what they do in Tampa with Palat and Johnson and...
Played in the top line in the
who's
AHL.
the other guy in that line? I can't remember and I'm pissed off about it. Palat Johnson and somebody. Anyways, they play together in the AHL for a year, come up, third or fourth line guys, come up, highest scoring second line in the league right now.
Yeah.
Let guys build together and grow together, and when they take that next step, it's okay. Crap, we couldn't sign Andrew Ladd. Here's Ehlers.
Yeah.
Because we gave him another year. There's a lot of different options you can go right now. And again, that cash savings that we were talking about before gives you that flexibility to add a guy and have a chance to re-sign him. Frolik, another guy. We'll get onto him right now. Frolik's got a contract expiring at the end of the year.
Yeah.
This cash savings, I'm hoping, is going towards getting him signed now.
Everybody has fallen in love with Michael Frolik. I think there's not really anyone that I can think of.
He's played all the way around the lineup.
Yeah, and there's nobody, even media, whatever, who I think has anything bad to say about Michael Frolik's either play or his personality either.
Exactly.
I can't see him leaving, and I
can't see him leaving and it going well for
yeah,
Chevy.
exactly.
Like, him walking away would be, like, terrible.
Yeah.
But is it at the point right now where he could be traded? I think it's tough to say because at this point they're in a tough race.
Yeah.
And you got to make, again, your smart decisions. But along with those smart decisions, you got to keep thinking about what's happening in the future. And yeah, this asset management of adding another draft pick gives you a chance to bring in somebody else. If you bring in somebody else and get rid of Frolik, you haven't really done anything. But at the same time, if you add all these guys and then lose them all to free agency in 3 months, have you really helped your team out? So he needs to get re-signed soon, right? Like that's got to be the next topic of discussion in this city. Is
that's going to be
got to figure out your plan with Michael Frolik
the next
now.
big news contract wise is going to be either him signing or not signing.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be it.
And it's scary because he's added so much to his team.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind, bringing in him and Perreault have been Chevy's best moves by far.
Yeah.
And he can destroy one of them by letting him walk for nothing.
Yeah.
And I haven't heard any rumors of Frolik, so I don't think he's being offered up. I don't think he's going to get moved. I think it'd be kind of, you're sending the wrong message to your locker room if you move him, but you're you're just setting a bad precedence if you let him walk for nothing. So if you have to be confident you can get him signed if you aren't going to move him. And you need to really, again, take that cash money you just saved by getting rid of Bogosian, the cash you've saved by making Buffalo hold on to some Stafford's contract, and get him signed now. I know you're wheeling and dealing for other players, but this conversation shouldn't have been held off to this last month. This conversation should have been ongoing forever. I don't know if it has. I hope it has.
Yeah, sure. Possibly.
But you need to know what's going on right there.
He has to reside. It has to happen as far as I'm concerned. He's too good of a player, and I mean, obviously it depends on what kind of money he's asking for, but he's too good of a player in the role he plays on the team and how he's been since he's been here to just let him walk away for nothing.
Yeah. And it's scary because Chevy keeps doing this one good move followed by a terrible one.
Yep, so we'll see how it goes.
And maybe this trade was his good move and he's going to follow it up with a bad one by letting Frolik go.
Possibly.
It's terrifying. I just got another notification. So every time I get a notification, this is the time of year that every time I get my phone buzzing, I'm like, oh, who got moved?
What was it? Anything?
No, it was an email. Oh, okay. Unfortunately. Yesterday I woke up and my phone just kept going crazy and it was just out of my reach.
Oh.
So like, whatever, I'm just going to leave it. And then it kept going. I'm like, oh, frick, someone got traded.
Yeah, obviously.
And I look at my phone and there goes Franzen and yay, Olio and a bunch of goddamn pity making fun of me. And then I freaking respond. Everyone's like, Rowan's like, I've been waiting for this all morning. It's the same thing with Garrett with when the Bogosian and Kane trade went down, Garrett was still sleeping because he like either worked or he was sick the night before, and I was like, Garrett, wake up! We need your evaluation now. Where are your numbers?
Yeah.
It was annoying.
Yeah.
Stupid Garrett living in goddamn Vancouver.
Why do you guys sleep?
Yeah. Don't be a human.
Yeah.
Be a robot. We all know you're a robot.
Yeah, he's a robot anyways. Exactly.
Get it together, bro. Okay. Last thing we're gonna get to before we get to our regular segments. Andrew Churley, our good friend. Neil, do you want to look up Churley's Twitter handle because I forgot to write it down.
Plug the guy.
He tweeted us a question, or he made a request of us.
Yes.
His request was, can we debate both sides of Buff playing forward? We're obviously pro defense for him, but there are pros for playing forward, and he'd like to hear our opinions. So, Joe, would you like to go first?
My opinions on forward. First time that Bufflin got moved to forward, which was...
Well, if you want to be technical.
Not like...
You got to include the Chicago days.
I'm not talking Chicago. I'm talking here. When he got moved to forward originally under Noel. The first few games, and understandable because he'd been playing defense for a while by this point, he just looked lost. And that was my first thing I remember. The first 3-4 games, I was like, wow, he just does not look like he knows what he's doing. And I remember saying, okay, here's your options. Keep him at forward, but make him go back to that role that he was playing in Chicago, where he was using the big body in an effective way, like, in front of the net, or, deflecting or cross-checking guys in the spine. Do that. Or move back to defense, because what he's doing right now with this whole like trying to get the cycle going and whatever fancy dancy, all that stuff, it's not working. Yeah. And I mean, he's a good enough player that he can make that work, and we've seen some evidence of that in his recent stint as forward. He's gotten some stuff going, but I still think that over the long term, his best role playing forward is that in front of the net, big body guy. So why not?
Yeah,
he can bully.
Yeah, it's definitely the pros.
He can bully anyone in the league. Mm-hmm. And I know it's just a simple answer to a more complex problem, but I mean, really, why would you not do that if you have that option? Yeah. Obviously, I think he's better to be a defenseman and just play with somebody responsible, which he has been doing lately. Play with somebody responsible, and he can go up and score goals. And he scores more when he plays defense than when he plays forward. Yeah. I like scoring. I don't know about you.
Yeah, so do I. Do you have Churley's Twitter handle there, Neil?
Yeah, he's one of the few in the world that gets his own name as a handle. So Andrew spelled the normal way, and Churley, Churley.
So this doesn't have any numbers or underscores?
No,
or anything?
It's beautiful.
Wow.
He's got capital A, capital C. He's got a hell of an avatar, too. Everyone's got to check that out. Looking good, big guy.
It's a lovely thing having your own name.
That would be nice.
I mean, I don't have my full name because it's just too long, but I just have like nice T.
But you could if you wanted to.
Yeah, I could.
Nobody else has that name.
Very few people have my last name at all.
His bio's worth reading too. Jason Segel is my hero. Team handball is my sport, and Harry Potter gives me wood. As my wand is made of English oak. Proud Hufflepuff all the way.
Yeah, that guy loves Harry Potter.
Oh, Shirley. Harry Potter's good.
Speaking of big guys, Andrew Churley.
Yeah, Andrew Churley. He's a part of the big man clan.
Yes, he is.
Okay. Buff is a forward. Garrett's done. We give Garrett a little shout here because he's done a lot of work in the past looking at this, because he was kind of the first guy on the ball of everyone saying he's a better forward, and Garrett was like, no. I know Tim's done a lot of work on this at Arctic Guys too. Here's the thing with Buff. We can argue the benefits of Buff as a forward all the time. Yeah, he's a big guy. Mm-hmm. Front of the net, great. He's got, for a guy his size, he's quick. He's got, well, I don't know, quicker. He's got speed. When he builds up speed, he's got hands. Yep. He can shoot. He can do a lot of good things and are good attributes for forwards. I fear for his knees because he's such a big man, and all that stopping and starting is not easy.
Yeah.
He is a huge human, and he's great on the forecheck. He can be... If you're a defenseman and Bufflin's coming charging at you, you're going to make decisions quicker.
That's terrifying. It doesn't matter who you are. That's still scary.
But the fact of the matter is this. We can make all those arguments, but the numbers are like, and I know it's, to make those arguments, they're all arbitrary things. It's all the intangibles sort of crap arguments that people love to make all the time. But the fact of the matter is, when Buff is on defense instead of a forward, there's better possession numbers for him and the team. Better goal differentials for him and the team. He scores more as a defenseman. He just does. He produces more goals himself. He produces more points himself. The ripple effects, the lineup as a whole, just make it better when he's on defense. So, yeah, I think he's a better option as a forward than necessarily Chris Thorburn. He's a better option as a forward than Matt Halschuk probably. As an individual, he does have more skills as a forward than a lot of the fourth line than some guys who've been on the third line. He just does. But
that's just because he's a talented freaking hockey player.
Exactly. the ripple effects throughout the entire lineup. And I've talked about this before, and Garrett, again, wrote an article, I think, last week or 2 weeks, right after the trade, I think it was. He wrote, or right before the trade, maybe. He wrote an article at jetsnation.ca talking about the overall ripple effects throughout the entire lineup when Buff's a forward, and it just makes things worse for the Jets as a whole. So, yeah, Buff does have a lot of good attributes, and he is a better forward than some of the other options they have. He is. There's no denying that. But hockey's a team sport, and him as a defenseman just makes things better. He takes those risks, but he's good, and when you take those risks, he's good at them. He knows when to do them properly. And yeah, he has the bad turnover here and there. He had another one against Detroit. He does make those bad decisions, but so does Erik Karlsson.
Yeah.
So does PK Subban, any prolific offensive defenseman, quote unquote, if you want to give it that title, makes those mistakes. But their positive effect to the team is so much more than that one or two mistakes that they make that it's just worth it. As silly as that might say, yeah, he might cost you a goal here or there, but he produces so much more that it's just worth it. Case in point.
Oh, I agree, absolutely.
So, I know we didn't necessarily say all the great things from Buff being a forward, but it's hard to make those arguments when I know just by looking at the numbers that it's not necessarily true, and in the long term, it's not a good decision to make. So, yeah, they're there, but they're just there. They're not long term.
The reason that he had success as a forward in Chicago, I think, is because they were a lot more complete of a team than Winnipeg is. They had a lot more going for them. He was just more of a role player in that situation. Yeah. And so he had success.
And he wasn't excelling to the same point. Every year he's been a freaking all-star whenever he's a defenseman, even part-time apparently.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, when he's playing just that single role as a forward, then obviously he does it well. But I think if you're asking him to do every single thing that a normal forward does, you're asking too much.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree completely. He I don't think he ever has the capabilities of being a first or second line guy. He's just better than the fourth line guys that are here.
Because he's athletic and talented.
Exactly. Despite his apparent overweightness, which is ridiculous. Hey, Joe.
Hey.
Do you have a great team for us?
I do.
Excellent.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Joe's Great Team of the Week.
So, Great Team of the Week for this week. We kind of touched on it a little bit, talking about the Central and the Western. This being a Western Conference team. Great Team of the Week for this week is the LA Kings. They've won all their 4 games in the past 8 days, all in regulation, which is important for them. Slowly creeping back into the playoff spot. They now are only 3 points behind Calgary, who we said before they're in the last wildcard spot. They also have a game in hand on them and 3 games in hand on Winnipeg.
Lovely.
So, yep, it's
they're right behind Minnesota right now.
Yeah, they're right behind Minnesota. Yeah, they're like a point behind Minnesota.
God, it's a crazy race.
So it's there. Yeah, like the race is on. I mean, the Jets, yes, right now they're sitting pretty. They've got a solid 4 or 5 points, I think, on Calgary right now. So that's good. I mean, they've got that margin.
And they do force other teams to win, right? Like, the teams need to win if they're going to catch Jets, and the Jets can keep winning and make it harder and harder and harder. But those games in hand are scary.
The games in hand are scary, but right now, the Jets are sitting well. But yeah, LA Kings, Minnesota Wild, Calgary Flames, they're all right there. So keep an eye out. We know what the LA Kings can do if they sneak into the playoffs. They can friggin' win, which is the worst.
Stupid Kings.
Yep.
Just take a year off, maybe.
Well, they might this year. You never know.
Hopefully. Okay. We learned some things. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay. Perfect. Joe, what did you learn this week?
What I learned this week. This has a little bit more of a personal... personal is not the right word for it. I don't know, but I feel a little bit more connected to this one just because of a certain situation that I'll explain. Jokinen's wife tweeted out after he was traded to Toronto. Very nice, simple, subtle, perfect tweet. Never liked mustard yellow anyways. I have a picture of it that I sent to Neil. There it is. Never did like mustard yellow. Just, yeah,
I mean, that's fair.
Casually, right? And she obviously received tons of hate after this from Nashville fans. And she just responded saying, some people have a sense of humor and some people don't, which I thought was hilarious. Side note, I met Mrs. Jokinen. I went to their house to boost their car for them. Random fact, and I met his wife. She's very nice.
I bet
Miss
she is.
Yoki. Great handle.
Yeah.
Great
Miss
handle.
Yoki, yeah. Very nice lady. They have a couple cute dogs. And, yeah.
Perfect.
They don't live here anymore, obviously, so...
I like how the second reply is a fan named Natalie wearing that mustard yellow.
Yeah.
Hashtag sad tweet.
Yeah, sad tweet. Yeah, that's fine.
I don't know why, like, he was a healthy scratch. I don't know why anybody really cares, but I mean, I can understand why he's upset because he goes from Nashville to Toronto.
A funny response I saw to this was Adam Wozni of he's Free Press or
I know
or
it's TSN.
Anyway, I can't remember. He tweeted out, I guess Katarina Jokinen doesn't like winning. He got. It's like she doesn't like mustard yellow and she also doesn't like winning. Because Nashville is one of the best teams in the NHL. Only got better, and now he's in Toronto.
Yeah. Not only did they get better because the players they got better because he was no longer there because he has not been good this year.
Correct.
Neil, what did you learn this week?
First time I didn't find anything on Reddit, but I learned what you guys actually thought of the Kane trade. Because I asked Travis the other day, just very politely, just text him, hey, like, big trade, what'd you think of the trade?
Give you some attitude or what?
And he's not gonna tell you. I'm gonna have to wait.
You'll find out on the podcast.
Yeah. Which kind of like for the 5 seconds I read, I'm like, you son of a bitch!
How dare you?
Are you teasing me, you asshole?
I just really want to know what you think.
I thought we were friends.
Your opinion matters. So I'm glad that I finally learned what you guys think.
That's funny.
God,
damn.
Stupid Travis.
It's funny because I was, again, listening to the Steve Dangle podcast when he texted me that. I was listening to an episode and they were talking about how Adam Wilde, who is one of the guys in their show, he is a radio personality in Toronto. And they were just talking. Someone asked one of their... They have a press conference at the end of each one where they get fans of the show to ask questions. And someone asked, what would you go first overall in if you were drafted? Like, what would you go first overall? And they picked for each other, and they said teasing. And for Adam, they said teasing things because they listened to his radio show, and he like drops teases like no other because it's like a Hot 103 kind of
like
radio
upcoming
station.
Concerts or whatever.
Well, no, it'll be like a story, and he'll be like telling a story, like, oh, you never heard, and the one they used an example for. Did you guys see that video this week of that idiot who like got underneath a train, and his friend was like filming him while he was underneath a moving train, and he's like. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's crazy. And he's like throwing things to his friend from the train because he thought he was actually going to die. And his friend's just like laughing. He's like, dude, you're so screwed. And like making fun of this guy as he's underneath a moving train.
Well, what are you going to do about it at that point?
So he's talking about this video and playing his video. And then Adam stops it and is like, does he survive?
Oh my God.
You'll find out after these next 3 songs. And just kept going. And they're like, you horrible human.
Does he survive?
Yeah. Apparently Adam like gets like emails from people. It's like, I'm going to kill you for leaving all these drops because I can't stop listening to your stupid radio station because I want to know what happens.
I don't even like this music.
But I'm in my car, so I can't just go on my phone and find out. So
do a few laps around the block. Waiting.
So I was like, you know what?
Should have been home 20 minutes ago.
Yeah. I'm going to tease this to Neil and just be a dick.
Yep.
So
it worked.
Yeah, there you go.
What did you learn this week, Travis?
I learned that Lauren Cohan, who this one right here, off The Walking Dead, attractive female, is a Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes fan.
Interesting.
I don't know if she's actually a fan, but she was at an Arizona Coyotes game. So I was like, hey, go to a Coyotes game. Meet freaking TV stars. So I thought that was pretty cool. Yeah.
She got her episode last night on The Walking Dead.
On The Walking Dead. It was a lot about her.
Yeah.
I guess Beth used to be my favorite. I was so heartbroken, spoiler alert, when she died.
That was like not a very long pause between spoiler
I don't care.
and
if you're listening to this and upset
how long ago was that?
Like...
Wow.
It was before the
that's
mid-season
fair.
break,
That's fair.
so you should probably know
it was
by
about
now.
November.
Yeah.
Wasn't
All right.
Yeah,
fine,
it was
fine.
a while ago.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe, we're getting in our Walking Dead talk.
I don't know anything about this, so...
Yeah, but I guess, I don't know, everyone was pissed off at her because she didn't really seem to care where Beth was for a while, but that was her
episode. And then she gets a whole episode caring about where Beth was going.
And just like falling apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's the last one of their family alive.
Yep.
It's pretty sad.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's what I learned this week, is that she is an Arizona Coyotes fan.
Cool.
Let's spell some things, boys.
It's the SPELLINGB. Gotta remember I before E. Except after C.
Slide whistle gets me every time.
It's just too good.
Spelling bee.
Spelling bee for this week. With Festival du Voyageur starting up yesterday.
Yeah.
I thought I would go with a little French twist.
Perfect.
So spelling bee for today, and I did double check it because I had a feeling I'd done it before, so I went back through. I haven't done it, so if you have that feeling, it's never been done before, ever in the history of the world.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. No one's ever spelled this name.
Yeah, I
before.
cross-referenced it with all of human history.
Wow.
Spelling bee for today.
It's crazy.
Montreal Canadiens little man forward David Desharnais.
Whoa.
Oh God.
That's a nice name, though.
It is a great name.
Great name.
He's also like second shortest guy in the NHL or something like that, or close to that.
David Desharnais?
Desharnais, yeah.
Desharnais. All right.
I know it's spelt in a French way.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, big time.
Kind of. I'm trying to revert back to grade 9 here.
Yeah. Last time I did any French at all.
So that I before E thing, I don't think it works.
Oh yeah, crap.
David, say it again.
Desharnais. Apologies to my terrible French accent, because I wasn't
Last
even
time I
trying.
took French was in grade 10, and
Wow.
my buddy
Grade 10?
Sean and I took it in high school.
Wow.
And I
That's
did
dedication.
Awful. I did
Yeah.
awful because it went from like junior high French, where you really didn't need to know anything.
Just
as long as you
conjugating
could-
verbs?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
exactly.
show up.
Like I barely knew any French after like junior high, but I was like, you know what? I can understand what people are saying, so I must be good in high school. No.
You were just destroyed. I took Spanish in grade 10. That was the worst.
I guess, how long have I been out of high school? Okay, well, it's been more than 7 years, so I'm past the
Yeah.
whole, like, you can get punished for something. What's that, when you can get punished for something that you did
I
a long
have
time
no
ago?
idea.
What?
You're fine.
What's that phrase when you can get, like, when you break a law, but if you wait
yeah,
long enough, or, like,
yeah.
if you cheat on your taxes, but after a certain amount of time,
don't know.
they
Just
can't
get
do
away with
anything
it.
to
7 or
you?
8 years. I don't know.
Statute of limitations, is that it?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
Cool
Anyways,
story.
I completely cheated on that exam.
Decent.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
wow! It's
I
only
had no
been
idea what
6
I was
years,
doing.
by the way. So
Oh, snap!
It was grade 10. Whatever. I had no idea what I was
Oh,
doing. Oh, my
that's true.
parents
You
are going to
took
hear
grade
this for
9.
the first time,
Okay,
too.
yeah, yeah. All right,
Oh,
David.
yeah.
David.
David.
I hope there's no French David.
David.
Desharnais. Daeharne with one of those lines.
Little funny things.
Oh, the hat or the line?
Line.
Okay.
A forward slash.
Okay, above the E. Okay.
A top slash.
Tops. Oh my god.
I'm sorry to our
Yeah,
French
this
listeners.
is really bad.
Is that it?
Yo.
Oh, that's over? Oh, okay.
Oh my god.
Now he's nervous.
Yeah, I wasn't even close.
Okay, go.
David Desharnais.
Oh,
David
Dale's like, fuck.
David.
Yes,
David.
okay.
I know it's like Descharnais or something like that. So DESHARNIAS.
God.
Okay. So close.
Wow.
So close. You just have to switch your I and A. Yeah, it's DAV.
I went I before A.
Yeah, I before A, except after
SH.
R. I don't know. After N, I don't know. Yeah, Desharnais is DESHARNAIS. David Desharnais.
AIS.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Miss Kolbisky. Madame Kolbisky.
Damn, yeah, come on.
Not even close, Neil. Damn it. Well,
Yikes.
it's been fun, fellas. That's about it for our show this week, I think. Neil, what
Yeah.
time are we? Are we short
Been a
this week,
while.
or are we
No,
good?
we're long.
No, 107.
Perfect. Man, we got this timing thing down.
Yeah, we do.
Awesome.
Actually, you do, because I have no control over that, but
That's true.
good job. I mean, I'll
I
take
try
credit.
to look at my phone before we start, but I always forget. And then when I do look, I forget like halfway through what time we started
Yeah.
at, because I don't write it down. So just kind of wing it. If you want to get a hold of us on Twitter, it's at JetStreamPod, #JetStream. The website is www.jetstreampodcast.com. If you want to send us an email, if you want to send us questions or anything like that, send it to our Twitter handle, to us individually, or email it to us, jetstreampodcast@gmail.com. We always appreciate hearing from you guys. It's great. Especially those of you from like not Winnipeg.
Yeah, it's always-
we always find that cool.
Yeah, really nuts. Travis will text me randomly being like, some guys emailed me from like New York. You're like, sweet.
Like, you really have nothing better to do in New York than lhan to our podcast?
And if that answer is yes, then we love you.
Yes, continue to do so.
Yes, just keep listening. I'm not making fun of you.
Yeah.
Get a hold of me at Twitter on Twitter at THRUBENIUK. Joe's on Twitter at JW_Clark20. Neil's on Twitter at Neil Noonan, NEILNOONAN. Subscribe and rate us on iTunes. We had this talk again before the show about how subscriptions are great. What really gets us are ratings and comments. So rate us. I'm gonna use English properly for
Use
once,
this
maybe.
rates in the comments.
Yeah, and comment. It really helps us out. That's what gets us noticed. Check out ArcticGuysHockey.com. That's where you can find a lot of great analysis on everything happening with the Jets, game day post-game stuff, all that kind of stuff. Great community over there. Thank you all for listening. Those of you listening on SoundCloud and on Max Sports channels, be sure to check us out on iTunes. You guys are the big ones to leave us comments and ratings and all that stuff, so please do. And yeah, that's about it. The Jets play the Edmonton Oilers tonight, so hopefully they can get a win, but I'm again pretty nervous about that because those damn turtle shells are coming flying at us.
Oh man,
so
you want to talk about a blue shell? The
Yeah.
Turtles are a big old blue shell.
yeah, the turtles.
Did I say turtles? The
The Edmonton Turtles are
The
a big blue
Oilers.
shell.
The Oilers. Damn, I got turtles on the
yeah.
mind.
The Jets have Edmonton, Washington, and then the Leafs this week, so I gotta cheer for the Leafs, but at the same time, it's almost better if they lose, so I might be cheering for the Jets on Saturday. I really don't know. I was so close to going to Toronto for that game. I'm so glad I didn't spend the money to do that because,
Hey, what if Phil Kessel's been traded by that time?
I hope he doesn't get moved. Whatever, we're not going to talk about the Leafs right now because, you know what, we're on a positive note, and as happy as it'll make all of you to talk about Leafs sorrows, it just makes me sad, and I don't want to be sad. So, have a great week, everybody. Enjoy all the lovely Jetsness, and hopefully they add another third liner at some point before it's too late. So yeah, enjoy the game tonight, everybody, and you know what, go Jets, go!
Oh, perfect. That was good.
That was a... Yes, nailed it!